Hello there, dear YouTubers or my website visitors, which is going to be the name of my website, Colorless King.info. And first thing I want to say is I am highly sorry because I thought my website was going to be published by today, which is going to be 7th of January, but it is still not published yet because the person who is handling the website is someone who can handle website related topic and I can't, and as a result it has not been updated yet. Okay, like this is the base model and it has not been updated yet. I'm extremely sorry about that. So what can you do to contact me? Let me show you some way. If you go to my YouTube channel, and if you go to my YouTube channel and then go to this more section here, here is a Discord link. You can contact me in the Discord link and I will be able to answer you because I am always available in my Discord link. Don't go to the Gmail here because this Gmail is not something that I used on a regular basis. I use this Gmail, but the name is not okay. So I suggest that you go to my Discord server, and eventually when this website is ready, colorlessking.info, you should be able to enter this website. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So today I wanted to talk about one of the dimensional model of my colorless thing, colorless king dimensional model, uh, that is going to be the -1 dimension. Now if you have not seen the -4, -3, -2 and what the CKDM actually is, you can go to my YouTube channel and go to the playlist and you should be able to see what is the colorless king. Not even .com anymore, it should be .info. I will change this later. Okay, so the question is, what is this website for? This website is basically a website against theoretical math, and directly go for observational math, observation first and then experimentation and then that. Then there is this dimension which is going to be -4, the first one, then -3, then -2. How each of these dimension work? Okay, it should be given here in the following manner. First of all, watch this one, -4, then -3, then -2, then eventually you should be able to see the -1, which will be this video. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Now here's the thing, I have again fed my paper to here and then told it, read the whole paper and tell me what are the characteristics of -1D, mark it with number. So it is an immutable layer of law. It is fixed, unchangeable, foundational, universal law, and constant, such as those things governing gravity, electromagnetism, quantum mechanics. Okay, so here is the thing. If you were to ask, okay, where does physics stand? How many types of physics are there? Okay, so this is the first thing. Okay, so what is the first thing? There is a thing called classical physics. Classical physics. And then from classical physics came quantum physics. Okay, and then afterward there is another type of physics that people doesn't actually talk about. They basically causes information is equivalent to entropy of the law of thermodynamic. Okay, so how is this correct? This too is correct. Okay, first there is a classical law, then there is quantum physics, and this one is highly incorrect. So what is the correct version? So allow me to explain. So the correct version are going to be the following. For example, let's say this is the classical physics. Okay, classical physics is equivalent to what we can use or see with our eyes. Okay, so classical physics is equivalent to what we can see with our eyes. This is the first level of physics that a human being can understand. Then, using the concept of electricity, uh, we then go for something like detection instead of saying things like electromagnetism or any other stuff, because those stuff came a lot later. So electromagnetism falls into the category of quantum physics. Okay, so quantum physics. So when the concept of electricity, E L E C, electricity, came into existence, and the concept of detection started to happen. Then came quantum physics, but before anything before this, there was classical physics. And then the last one which I think about is called information physics. Okay, so what is information physics? So information physics falls into the category of uh, simulation hypothesis. Simulation simulation hypothesis. Okay, you can get the idea, right? Simulation hypothesis. So the question is, why information physics falls into the category of simulation hypothesis? Why does this is equivalent to information physics? Okay, this is the important part that we shall be discussing in the negative one dimension. Okay, now it is what I said here. It is basically the law that governs how gravity, electromagnetism, or quantum mechanics will function. So if this is the law that is immutable layer of law, what does this mean? It means this law is something that we cannot change even if we want. Okay, now the question is, why can we actually not change this law even if we want? Because of the simulation hypothesis. Let's say these are the 5 dimensions that gives to the characteristics of the dimension of the atom, which will have total 16 characteristics. An atom will have total 16 characteristics, but where does these characteristics come from? They come from this ontological dimension. So basically speaking, if I am using my computer and moving my cursor, this is the cursor, and if I can move the cursor, the question is, does the cursor move on its own, or am I moving the cursor? That is the difference. Okay, so this is the dimension that gives to the characteristics of how a cursor will move, and this is how the cursor move. And in this case, in reality, our reality has total 5 ontological dimension that gives to the characteristics of the atom themselves, and we only see the characteristics of the atom themselves. And this is exactly what I am trying to say of what quantum physics is actually going to be like, and what is classical physics and what is information physics. So according to me, information physics is basically the foundation. Okay, so if I were to, let's say, make a pyramid. Okay, let's say I made a pyramid. The foundation layer is going to be information physics, and above information physics is going to be quantum physics. And once the quantum physics is completed, then comes the classical physics. Okay, so this is how actually it goes. Now, to give a proper idea of what I mean, let's look at the few more characteristics of this negative one dimension. Universal source code. It is conceptualized the divine decree or the simulation parameter that acts like a kernel of the operating system, enforcing law invisibly. So, uh, let's say uh, you are watching a YouTube video. Obviously, this is going to be recorded and you are watching it on a YouTube channel, right? So there is 3 layer. Okay, this is going to be the front layer, this is the mid layer, and this is the back layer, or in programming language it is called the uh, front end, middle end, and back end. So back end is basically like programming, where people uses computer language to make codes, use the computer language to make codes to make the backend process start. Okay, start. So computer process start. Okay, so computer process oh z oh this is basically like a, in the backend we use a computer to make the code, and then after making the code, the process start. So what is the middle end? In the YouTube, middle end is like me, who upload the video and then who does a little bit of thumbnail editing, a little bit of let's say editing on my PC of how the video will be like, using my DaVinci Resolves, and then what do I do? I then upload it to the YouTube channel on the YouTube, and then I wait for a certain amount of times, so for the YouTube algorithm to see if I have put anything malicious inside the video or not, so that my money can get deducted. if necessary, and those are the stuff. Okay, so if those are the stuff, so how can we actually make sure that we understand how it might look like in the front end? So finally, the viewers, the viewer, VIEWR, viewer, viewers. I think there is an E, viewers. So eventually the viewers will only see the front end of the YouTube. So if the question is, if the viewer, here it is again, if this is the back end and this is the middle end where I as the content creator work, and this is the front end where only the viewer actually sees the video, then does the viewer actually need to think about how they need to do the editing here? No. Do the viewer also need to see what happens in the middle end like me? No. They just want to see the video. If they just want to see the video, they have no need to know the back end or the middle end. So from that point of perspective, the invisible rules are always existing in the information physics, which is why in the information physics category, if I were to make a diagram again, okay, if I make a diagram, the diagram will be something like this. Information physics is equivalent to the backend process. No one can access this except the creator. And what is the creator? Remember, if I talked about in my this negative two dimension, if there is a simulation hypothesis, then it means if we are inside the simulation and if there is a simulation hypothesis, then it means someone created this simulation hypothesis and I call that one as the creator. So the creator created the simulation hypothesis. So this is how it goes. Now here's the thing. So information physics falls into the category of backend that no human being or no being living inside the system will be able to do. Quantum physics is the lowest amount of physics that a human being can actually manipulate. Okay, and this is called the middle end. Okay, this is the middle end because let's say the YouTube algorithm is fully a backend process. Okay, it is running automatically. It is running automatically, but the content creator are the real human. We are the human. Then human watches human content content. This is the classical physics. Okay, so in this case, what can we see here? Information physics is basically like the backend, and it can be happen automatically. Quantum physics is basically the middle end or the lowest amount of visibility that we cannot see anything lower than the 10 to the power negative 19, which is the equivalent of electron size. And this can still be manipulated by a human being. Like we human being will be able to push one electron away from one place to another. We can do that. And there is the classical physics. Classical physics is basically like the starting physics. Okay, here we see momentum and stuff, but true momentum should not exist in quantum physics. Okay, true momentum should not exist in quantum physics. Okay, so here is the thing. People use the concept of momentum from classical physics and somehow they apply this classical physics momentum into quantum physics. How they do that? I was shocked. Like, how do they do that? Are they idiot or something? I will not talk about that here. I'll move on to the next part. Okay, so inaccessible and unobservable. Again, the negative dimension are all ontological model. Okay, they are all ontological model. No human being are inside the system can manipulate them. Similarly to how I explained that no one can actually access the backend process. Okay, this is not possible. So this is what I am saying. If it is an unaccessible and unobservable and yet it works, then it means it exists outside of the human territory, but it is still controlling how the human will behave to the environment. Okay, it cannot be directly accessed, measured, or probed by anything physical instrument or model operating system from within the positive dimension. Okay, so what is the written here is the Large Hadron Collider. So according to my model, the behavior characteristics of the Large Hadron Collider starts from +1 to +16. So everything in between is the characteristics of how the Large Hadron Collider should be acting. Okay, other than that, if anyone says, okay, how can we say that the Large Hadron Collider will not be able to manipulate this, because these are the dimension from -4 to 0 in the colorless king dimensional model or CKDM. They control the characteristics, so again it is not possible, which is why I have written here it is not accessed, measured, or probed by any physical instrument, model, or operating system within the positive dimension like the Large Hadron Collider. Okay, inferred by via consistency. It exists. Its existence is not observed but rather inferred through the unwavering stability and coherence of the physical laws across time, across all time and space. So basically speaking, if we go in any part of the galaxy or universe, we will basically be following the same law of physics. Why? Because it is something that exists in every places at once, whereas it exists more like it causes how the atom themselves should be existing. Okay, so in this place here is, you can see here the atom is basically the 16 characteristics of the atom, and this one decides how the characteristics of each of these atom will behave. So this is the thing. And non-local, obviously, because it exists in every places at once, it is basically non-local, because if something happened, let's say in quantum mechanic, okay, instantaneous connection. So let's say something is here and something is here, and in between them there is several thousand light years difference. So a light will take about a long time to come here. So if that is the thing topic, then in quantum mechanics it is possible for something to travel to here instantly, if according to my theory, if there is no atom in between, then the signal can come from this place to this place, which is about, let's say, 1000 light years apart. Light year apart, they are still gonna get affected. Okay, so this is what non-locality is basically like. It is happening in all the places at once, which is why the entire universe, uni v e r s e universe is affected. Okay, so this is non-local. So it doesn't matter if one atom is here, another atom is several 100,000 light years away, they will get automatically affected due to uh, what should I call it, instantaneous resonance. And what is that? I will talk about instantaneous resonance in the uh, positive 15 dimension. It will explain, I will explain it there. Now, axiomatic enforcement. All physical phenomenon from subatomic interaction to galaxies emerges from its principle, which cannot be overridden or bypassed. Why can we not override it? Because we are inside the system. And foundational constraint. It establishes the epistemic limits of the universe, meaning all observation and interaction are confined within the rules it dictates. Okay. So the question is, how can we, human being, know if this is real or not? Okay. How can we know? In order to know something, the first thing we must need to understand is, how do we know that the atom itself has total 16 characteristics? Simple. We do lots of experiment. We do many experiment. We do many experiment on what? On the atoms, to see all of their characteristics. So if all of the characteristics of an atom falls into the similar category of either let's say attraction or repulsion, or let's say why the planet are not why the planet are not falling into the sun, So these are the thing. Like, we know that the planet orbiting the sun, but why does the planet not fall into the sun? Many people will say that the planet are not falling into the sun is because of uh, m- momentum. Okay, this is not true. This is not true. Why is this not true? This is a very complicated topic, which is why I'm going to only explain it for a very short amount of time, because we understood we understand Maxwell equation properly. Okay, but Maxwell equation is a, what should I call it, electromagnetic field. Okay, which combines basically the four characteristics of three people's discovery, and then said Maxwell equation. So if Maxwell equation is something which we can understand very properly, the question we should be asking, Maxwell equation, what type of is it? Is it macroscopic, or is it quantum? Is it information physics, or is it classical physics? This is the problem we are having. So Maxwell physics, Maxwell physics, Maxwell equation. Okay, Maxwell equation falls into the category of classical physics and slightly and slightly quantum physics. Okay, so Maxwell equation falls into the category of classical physics and slightly into quantum physics, but the whole property of the quantum physics itself is not actually properly explained, because every machine is made of what? Atom. And every atom has two properties. Okay, they have two properties. What are the two properties? The two properties is pull, pull or push. Okay, so pull and push. So the question is, if every atom has these two characteristics, pull and push, then where does the vibration come? Okay, so there are so many topics, but every atom has this pull and push, and because every atom has this pull and push, we just in general call them electromagnetic field, because this electromagnetic field causes effect on what? On magnets and um, devices of any type. Okay, if the electromagnetic field can causes effect uh, on the magnet and devices, which are both of these two are made of what? Atom. Then we must need to understand, why is there a push and pull happening? If we cannot understand why this push and pull is happening, then we are not able to understand Maxwell equation that much properly. We just only know how to use them, because sometimes if you ask an engineer why something is working, sometimes they will say it works, but we do not know why. So we need to ask, why this pull or push happening, which my uh, positive 12 and 13 dimension will be able to explain it. Okay, so you need to wait about that now. And let's move on to the next part. What is the next part? The next part is, it establishes epistemic limits of the universe, meaning all observation. Okay, so this part is done. So the question is, okay, how can we know if the negative one dimension is real or not? Simple. To know something, one example I should give you is, one day I was watching a YouTube video. Okay, uh, in that YouTube video, a woman was saying how to reverse engineer block words. So that woman said how to reverse engineer block words. So when I heard this, I had to watch the entire video. So in the entire video that woman explained, let's say you blocked a word called poop, P-O-O-P, poop, or let's say cat, a dog, dog, and Paul Dirac. Paul Dirac. Okay. Okay. After you block this, what you can do is to see which words automatically disappears once you put them. So if you see word like poop disappears, then it means the word poop was blocked. If you see the word cat disappears, then it means that cat word was blocked. Same with dog and Paul Dirac. Okay. So in order to understand if the negative one dimension is real or not, it is very simple. You just need to see how many ways can we manipulate the atoms. Okay, so how many ways can we manipulate the atoms? So if we understand this, how many way can we manipulate this atom, then we'll be able to see how many characteristics the atom has. Okay, so a very good example is here. Okay, so this is a 3D cube. I made this with the help of Gemini. It is a little bit clunky because I'm not very good at coding, and this Gemini AI did its best. So here's the thing, this is a cube, right? And this cube has back, left, front, right, top, and bottom. Okay, so the question is, what will happen if I put one character there? If I put a let's say a game character there, that game character is not going to be able to move, and that game character will be stuck there. Now what will happen if I increase the number of cube, okay, up to total 9? So the number of cube that I have uh, increased, now the character will fill about 9 tiles. How? Because if we are looking at from a top bottom view, okay, you can definitely see that there is gap in between, right? And in between this gap, if you put a character, then this character will go from here, here, and here. Okay, in this way. And then we'll eventually say that the floor that the character is now standing on has total 9 tiles. Okay, now if I let's say lower one of them, then the character will, so the total amount of tiles exist is 8, but these 8 tiles are organized in this manner. Okay, so what will happen if I increase up to 27 of them, and then if I put any of the character inside this Rubik's cube, okay, all it is gonna say that the entire box has total how many total 9 6 9 to 6, total 54 tiles in total from all sides. Okay, so this is what the character, who, if you put an AI character who has the ability to look at the tiles and count all of the tiles, then eventually the character inside this will say how many tiles there is total 54 tiles. Okay, so as I lower the amount of tiles, obviously, sorry, if I lower the amount of cube, eventually the amount of tiles will lower. Okay, and then the character will say that this room is a slightly bit odd because in some places there is actually one less tile, and in some places there are total 9 tiles. Okay, so this is what the character are gonna say. So what does this mean? It means if a character actually exists in a certain reality or not, we'll try to understand how to poke that reality by going back and forth multiple times in many different ways, and to see how each of this way it functions. And then eventually they are gonna say, we have finally understood the characteristics of this Rubik's cube, sorry, this box, and this box has total 54 tiles, and the amount of 54 tiles. If one of the block gets moved for some reason, it will feel less, it will feel like less space, but the amount of tiles has not changed. But up to a certain amount, we will see that the amount of tiles has changed because the amount of cube has gone down significantly. So this is what the people who are going to be inside of this cube is eventually going to say. So the question is, okay, how can we understand how the reality works? Simple. We need to understand how many way can we manipulate the atom to see how what the result is going to be like. And in this is the only way of reverse engineering the atom. Okay, so if we can reverse engineer the atom, the question is how can we do it? We can do it by seeing how many ways the atom itself will behave, and then from there we can finally say that this is the only way to make it happen. Okay, so let's see what I have written here. Okay, background code. Okay, I understood there. Texting. Yeah, okay. This is exactly what I was showing you guys there, so no need to do that again. Uh, and this is the AI cube. This is the cube that I basically told AI to make, and it made it here. And I just copy and pasted it on the HTML file. So overall, this is basically how it goes. Okay. Now, if I were to make more characteristics such as what is cold, what is hot, why the, let's say, an important part which I will discuss eventually in the positive 10 dimension, that is, let's say this is the crust of the earth. Okay, and as you get up and up, eventually there is a layer of hydrogen, and then as you go down, the amount of molecules that are basically heavy increases. So hydrogen, then eventually oxygen or something, and then as you go down, the amount of heavy element increases eventually to the point that there is iron at the bottommost layer. So the question is, if we actually look at the characteristics, okay, not there, not there. Okay, let's see, where is it? Okay, here. So if I were to say how many, how many uh layers, layers of air on, okay, on earth, and what elements is mostly concentrated in each layer, concentrated in each layer. So this is an important question, because if we look at the periodic table, periodic table, if we look at the periodic table, then we see that the most uh, lightest element is none other than helium. Sorry, not helium, I mean hydrogen, and then helium, and then what the heck, I don't know, even know the proper name of all of them. Okay, so there is hydrogen, and then there is helium, and after helium there is lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. So the amount of metal and the amount of gases, not only that, the amount of elements that are basically available in each layer of the earth is different. Okay, for example, in the troposphere, which is 12 kilometer, has what? It has nitrogen and oxygen. About 12 to 15 kilometer later, there is mostly nitrogen and oxygen, but concentrated. Okay, and then mesosphere, in the mesosphere there is 50 to 85 kilometer away from the earth, is basically uh, nitrogen and oxygen again, but extremely thin layer, less than 1% of sea level pressure. Okay, and then thermosphere is 85 to 600 kilometers. There is oxygen, nitrogen, and helium. And then exosphere is where there is, this is about 600 to 10,000 kilometer. So in the 600 to 10,000 kilometer, we can see that there is uh, hydrogen and helium. Okay, so the question is, as you go further and further away from the planet, we can see that the amount of elements, gaseous element that can be found in the earth or near the earth decreases in amount, and they basically form a layer. Okay, uh, a layer. So basically speaking, uh, here in the this topmost place about 600 to uh, above is basically hydrogen and helium. Okay, and then there is oxygen, helium, and nitrogen 2 or something. Oxygen, helium, and nitrogen 2 or something like this. And then as you go further and further down to the earth, okay, the crust of the earth, then what happens, the amount of uh, heavy metal increases, and eventually it is fully heavy metal. So what does this mean? It means that if I were to make a program, okay, if I were to make a program, and in the program I make some rules such as uh, air, this is air will be above water, and water will be above solid object. Okay, so if I were to make it in the following manner, here is the thing. In the programming rule, if I were to say air is going to be above water and air is going to be above solid, then if I were to say water is going to be above solid but below air, and then if I were to say solid is going to be below water and below air, okay, then what will happen? In the program, they will automatically reorganize themselves. So there will be no need for me to say, okay, after I made the program, I need to rearrange them. There is going to be no need for rearrangement. The program itself will be able to understand that water is going to be above solid and below air, and air is going to be above water and solid. But what will happen if, let's say, I put iron bar, iron, RO, and iron bar in a liquid metal such as mercury, liquid metal, mercury. So what will happen if I put this iron block here? So a YouTuber has already done this, and what they showed us is when we put the iron bar on liquid metal, mercury, the iron actually float. Okay, why does the iron float on top of the liquid metal? The reason behind that is if we look at mercury versus iron density, then you will obviously see mercury is significantly denser than iron. Iron is 7.87 gram per centimeter cube, will float on top of mercury because mercury is 13.6 gram per centimeter cube. So the reason why liquid metal is liquid metal, mercury liquid is still liquid, and yet iron falls here is not due to the solid should be on top of, sorry, solid should be below water and water should be below air. This is not how it works. Okay, so what I understood is reality follow this periodic table law, and because the reality follows this periodic table law that each atomic material will going to have a certain amount of information by which they are able to organize themselves in a certain layer of density, only then we are able to understand why, even if a liquid metal, mercury, even though it is liquid, is still going to be float. Okay, here is the original video. Okay, not this. This is the video that I saw. I do not remember which YouTuber it was, but it was definitely a YouTuber who actually did the science experiment where they put the mercury on top of, sorry, mercury on top of a plastic bucket, and then put an anvil on top of the mercury, and then the anvil was basically floating. Rather, that YouTuber eventually also said that it is significantly heavier to keep the uh, anvil, this anvil, or the shape is called anvil, below the mercury. It is significantly heavy. So when we talk about this concept of the information physics, okay, the main point of the information physics is the negative one dimension, which I call the background code of the universe. Background code of the universe. Background code of the universe. So this is basically the negative one dimension is. Now if you think that I have dragged the video extremely longer, even though in other video I basically explain the topic and then I say what this dimension is like, in this case I had to do it in reverse, because if we can understood this diagram, and then if we can understood what this model is, then and then say how this one actually controls all the behavior of this atom, only then we can understand why uh, reverse engineering the reality is a lot more interesting than saying we should be looking for new dimensional, uh, new axis of reality. So here's the thing: CKDM, okay, versus string slash M theory. The main problem with this is CKDM doesn't actually look for new dimension of movement. It doesn't look for new dimension of movement. It looks for characteristics of the atom. Okay, in the string theory and the M theory, what they look for is new axis of movement, new axis, AXIS, new axis of movement, and this is what they look for, and not the characteristics of the atom. So this is the whole issue. The reason the CKDM will dominate the this area of, what should I call this, string theory M theory, is because string theory and M theory died. Okay, string theory and M theory died because string theory totally relies on new axis of movement which has never been detected. Okay, and CKDM first of all looks for how many way we have already tested the atom. Okay, so CKDM not looks for movement, rather characteristics of the atom, and see how many type of experiment done on the atom. Whereas string theory and M theory, what they look for is new type of movement, new movement, and they hope, hope, that we might be detect them in the future. This is what the string theory and M theory is about. We should be looking at the atom and not on the movement of reality. The movement of reality can go fuck themselves. This is not going to be the important part. The important part is we should be looking at how the characteristics of the atom behave. Okay, and there are some other topic as well I need to say. For example, uh, as I already said in this video, that momentum, okay, there are two important things. For example, because due to my religious background, I need to say the Abel and Cain incident, Abel slash Cain incident. So in the Quran, it is said in the Abel and uh, Abel and Cain incident, that is uh, in Islamic religion, that is that two children, there two children used to be born at the same time, two twins, TWINS, two twins, okay, two twins. One of them are basically like brothers and sister born at the same time in the same area. So let's say uh, there are two twins, B for brother and sister, brother and sister. So according to the religion of how the family related thing topic started after uh, Adam and Eve, is four children were used to be born at the same time, brother and sister, brother and sister. So every time brother from this egg used to marry the sister of this egg, and the brother of this egg used to marry the sister from this egg. Okay, this is how the marriage used to happen. But during the issue of Abel and Cain incident, what actually happened was, let's say brother and sister, brother and sister. Okay, so this incident happened. Okay, except in this case, both the brother had to wanted to marry the same girl. Okay, why is that? Because for some reason, one of the brothers, the Abel sister, who this one was going to marry, okay, this one was going to marry this one, right? But in this case, she was beautiful, okay, beautiful. But in the sister of Abel, okay, sister of Abel of the same egg, was not beautiful, okay. And as a result, Cain, Cain, Cain got jealousy because she was not beautiful. So as a result, instead of this brother wanting to marry this one, she wanted to marry the sister from the same egg. Now because of that reason, Cain killed Abel. Okay, Cain killed Abel, and then the rules of the universe changed, where you are not allowed to marry of the children born of the same mother. Okay, so from this incident, a rules change happen. RULES, rules, CH. Okay, rules, CHANGED, rules change happen. So the question is, okay, how can we prove this? The answer is, we cannot prove this. This is the whole issue, we cannot prove this. So the question is, okay, if we cannot prove this, then how can we say that it actually happened or not? That's the thing. About religion, we actually don't know whether it happened or not. We just believe that it has happened because the creator of the book said so. So from that point of perspective, in the CKDM model, the negative one dimension is an indication. The more we can experiment with the atom, the more we will be able to know how much manipulate we can manipulate the atom. This is the important part of the CKDM model, and this is exactly an important part of my new final theory of everything, is because I am directly attacking the false model. Okay, what is the false model? So classical physics, I understand, it is the physics of intuition through observation. Quantum physics is the physics of detection with machineries. Okay, and then information physics is non-detectable, the probability function of the quantum physics itself, and non-manipulable. Okay, so this is what information physics is. Okay, I think I made a mistake here. Not this. Information physics. So information physics is non-manipulable. Okay, and it is not observable, and it is part of the quantum physics. So if this is what information physics is, no wonder we cannot manipulate a certain topic of the atom. What topic of the atom can we not manipulate? We often say in Paul Dirac, in the positron, positron, we often say in positron that it is basically like going to the past. Past. This is what positron is. Going to the past by interacting with what? Electron. So when an electron meets a positron, then the positron goes back to the past and the electron goes to the future. So if the electron goes to the future and the positron goes to the past, then the question is how much of this is actually true or not. Okay, this is true according to the Paul Dirac equation, and equation is not equivalent to reality. So this is why I do not like positron, because positron in could be something else, which I shall be talking about what positron actually is in a different video. I think the my how which one was it? Positron model detection. I think it was my positive dimension number 15, or was it 14? I think it was positive 14 dimension, where I will be talking about uh, environmental atomic slash subatomic morphism, where I will basically environmental atomics or subatomic morphism is basically where I'll be talking about how the environmental factor itself can create how the subatomic particle will behave. Okay, so this is the important thing, and from there the positron might be a middle of one electron and one muon. So if there is something needed, okay, why the mu1 is basically equivalent to about 200 times larger than electron, then could there be something in middle of an electron? There might be instead of positron there might be two electron equivalent, which I have gave it a stupid name called duotron. I know it is funny, but it is practical. Okay, so this is the thing. Quantum physics, especially due to few people, Einstein relativistic physics, and then Paul Dirac, and then Hilbert space, and Hilbert space. Okay, Hilbert space, and what was the last person? Minkowski, and what was another one? Feynman. So these are the five people: Einstein, Paul Dirac. Okay, PD, Paul Dirac. Okay, Paul Dirac, Hilbert space, Minkowski, and Feynman. These are the five people that have destroyed quantum mechanics. Okay, because Einstein himself was not working with quantum mechanics. It was Paul Dirac who did not understood the problem with Einstein equation itself, and I understood why the Einstein equation failed, which I will talk about it in my 4D dimensional topic. And Hilbert space assumes that in reality, a vacuum is purely isolated. Okay, Hilbert space indicate a vacuum is purely isolated, which is not true. And because of this reason, Hilbert space is basically mostly bogus. And Minkowski, man, these five people has caused a lot of problem in physics. And because of this thing, when I try to go for and I try to explain the physics in terms of using natural language, such as I'm speaking English right now, natural language, people are gonna say, people are going to say, where is the math? Where? Where is the math? No math means no uh, recognition. This is the problem we are facing right now. If my natural language is not equivalent to math, then they are going to ask for math, and if I do not give them proper math, then they are going to say, if there is no math, it is not real. And this is the reason why physics has gotten stuck in some places. Like the reason why special and general relativity, okay, is not is not compatible with quantum mechanic. So this is the whole issue, because uh, the topic about special and general relativity, okay, the topic about special and general relativity is it uses the characteristics of Maxwell equation with with classical physics, classical classical physics. And as a result, because Einstein used Maxwell equation in a classical manner, he was unable to understand what is happening. And because the special and general relativity is classical physics, it is unable to translate into quantum physics. Quantum physics is the physics of detection rather than intuition. So the reason Einstein model doesn't work with quantum physics is because this is characteristics of the Maxwell equation written in classical physics, the physics of detection with the human eye and intuition, which is not equivalent to quantum physics, which is the physics of detection using machinery. So, if we use the detection of the human eye directly against a device or device detection, or I forgot the M reason, machine detection with the machine, okay, then obviously we are not going to get the same result, okay. If we compare human eye with device mechanism, obviously it is incompatible. This is where the main issue started. The reason special and general relativity doesn't work with quantum mechanics is exactly this reason, not anything else. And eventually my future dimension should be able to explain this easily. So if you think that this is actually a very good demonstration of what actually happening with the physics community, that is not being able to understand what the actual negative one dimension is, okay, it is the core of the reality, and then the three hierarchy of the uh, category of physics, let's say that classical physics, information physics, and uh, sorry, classical physics is the lowest category, which is why it should be in the top of the pyramid, okay. Okay, so something like, if people doesn't understand that classical physics, okay, is the lowest category of recognition, because it is just a eye human eye interpretation, quantum mechanics is machine detectable physics, if we do not distinguish the difference between this one is SR, SGR, special R and general relativity, and this one is quantum physics, it is not have anything else, it is machine detectable physics, then obviously these two are not going to be compatible, because this one, okay, this one has not been translated to quantum mechanics itself. And information physics, I do not know how the fuck people mix this up with thermodynamic law. Like this makes zero sense. This is the exact reason why uh, for the last 100 years no one was able to explain why special and general relativity doesn't work with quantum mechanics. They just go with the math, and let's say there are many channels who say uh, uh, something. I can't do the math. I do not know how to do the physics math, because a certain reason which I will talk in the future video. Because of that reason, I do not show math, okay, because math is not going to be able to help me make you guys understand what is happening, okay. So this is overall a very large topic, which is why the video has gotten about 1 hour and 1 minute. But overall, since you guys got the proper idea, I will eventually say it here, that in order to understand the negative one dimension, we need to understand what is the negative one dimension. The negative one dimension is basically the rules of the reality, okay. It is the rules of the reality, whereas the rules of the reality indicate how the 16 characteristics of the atom will work in different ways, okay. So this is how it goes. So I know it is a little bit confusing, because if you are a person who is in a physics class and who is studying theoretical physics, then this is con uh, direct 180-degree flip. This is a direct 180-degree flip, because majority of the places people are going to tell you about new axis of movement, which is not equivalent to characteristics of the atom, okay. So if you like this video, then please give a like and subscribe and click the bell notification icon. Then in the future I will be talking about the zero dimension, which is going to be this one, okay. So goodbye, stay safe, and see you again next time.